For joining us here on a Morning Prime, Siasa Fiesta on Tuesday, the 14th of March 2023. And I trust that you had a lovely restorative sleep and you're ready to face this good day. Today we focus, of course, on matters politics, what is happening currently, following up and doggedly following up on what is happening in Azimio with the rallies right now as a build-up to the mass action that will be on the 20th of this month. And a raft of issues are coming to the fore as well, and we can see political parties or political party hopping right now where UDA keep on adding to their numbers. The latest, of course, from Nyanza, where we had also the president. Also, we had the principal secretary. This is the Musalia Mudavadi meeting with the former vice president, that is Mudi Awori, who is imploring the Azimio Brigade to go a bit slower on their actions right now with these mass rallies and concentrate on development. There are a lot of issues that we'll be discussing here on the table today. And also looking at the constitution of the EACC, we have people also raising a special umbrage with the fact that we do not have lawyers right now who are constituting the EACC. And what does that really portend as the mandate of the EACC? Do we necessarily need lawyers to actually be there to drive that particular commission? We shall be looking at this and a raft of other issues. Joining me this morning is Isaac Maura. Also, we'll be joined later by Dr. Makali Mulu, who is a Member of Parliament for Kitui Central. Also, we'll be joined by Owen Baya, who is a Member of Parliament for Kilifi North. And also Dr. James Mikal, who is a Member of Parliament for Seme. But as always, let's see what is fresh off the press this morning. And we begin with the bold paper there. This is the Standard, and it's all about Matiang'i, where it says Matiang'i case, the intrigues are all spilled out in the Standard this morning. And battle of supremacy as the DPP was arriving at the conclusion to drop charges against former Interior CS. A flurry of meetings were taking place to manage goosey politics. And this is a bite there from Kitutu Churches South MP, that is Anthony Kibageni, who said, "We will embrace Matiang'i. I attended the Thursday State House meeting and told the president we need exactly that. I am strongly in ODM and will remain objective." And we have the faces there of DPP Nuruddin Haji with the latest development there, and President William Ruto. You can follow the story where it's tucked away on page 4 of the Standard today. Pop open to priests getting married. Things are changing as far as the papacy is concerned. And if this is coming to the fore, it means, again, there's a lot really happening on that particular front. It's as regard to celibacy. And so this is bound to change. Pop open to priests getting married, one of the most liberal pops that we've had in recent history. You have a story on page 3. Remember also there's a breakaway of a church that is the Catholic Church, that they ascribe to, of course, marriage within Catholicism. You can read the rest of the story on page 3 there. I know Isaac Maura wanted to be a priest.
Well,
you wanted to be a priest, I know, and I don't know what really changed along the way. It could be that you couldn't get married, so that one maybe was a deal breaker. But well, now the church is opening that particular front, that is Catholic, so you can actually get married. Can you reconsider?
Is it for the whole of Catholic? Is a breakaway? Is a breakaway?
No, this is the Pope Francis who's speaking. It's not really the breakaway. The breakaway has been there.
Okay.
Yes, but now this is the Catholic.
So the fathers can now get married?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's a good move. It's absolutely amazing for all of those Catholics who would want to start a family. I think there is nothing that can replace a family.
So what does it really say for the doctrine of, for them, the doctrine of celibacy, that you need to take that particular vow as you're joining the priesthood?
Well, I think
this latest development with also the cases of abuse that has been coming from the Catholic Church as it is, you know, the child abuse.
I think the issue is, if I was to base it from a biblical point of view, it's 2 Timothy chapter 3, which says if you are an overseer, if you are superintending over the affairs of the church, you're supposed to be having only one wife. It doesn't say you should not get married. It just says you should not get more than one wife. So I think it's very clear, and I must say it will maybe help a lot of people who couldn't stay, without having a spouse, to actually now have an opportunity to serve both the church and also not to have secret families, because it is known that certain leaders of certain churches have secret families because they don't want to be seen to have already broken the celibacy law. So I think at the vow. So I think it's important. Of course, I did not want to be a priest. I wanted to be a pastor.
Oh, you wanted to be a pastor?
Yes. And I went ahead to study theology.
Oh, okay.
Up to advanced levels.
All right. Oh, they normally say that the call of the Lord is without repentance. So you can always be a pastor. Once a pastor in your heart, always a pastor.
No, there are those in the marketplace. You don't have to wear the color.
In the marketplace?
Yes.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I know Dr. Makali is laughing and smiling here. I don't know if also he subscribed to the same. If he wants to be a priest later, after this life. Not this life exactly, after a profession as a politician. Yes. You need to ask yourself what next. I'm not saying that should be the retirement career.
Yeah, sure.
But,
Good morning.
Morning to you. Good to see you.
Viewers. Yeah, good to see all of us. I don't mind becoming a pastor. I'm actually been a church elder.
You're a church elder?
I'm an AIC member. At one point, I was the vice chair of the church. AIC Moya branch. So you may never know. These things are there. And we believe in God. So, as you are saying, when we retire, there are two good things somebody can do. Can join the choir so that you sing, and then you praise the Lord.
That is not an option for you.
That's also another option. Is you assist the pastor preach the word.
Okay.
So Maura is not alone. Maura is not alone. You might have to do some postgraduate diplomas in theology.
What is it?
Yeah, that we done
I think Dr. Nyikali looks like a person who has a good base for the choir. So that he should consider that, as something when he's going for retirement. To join the choir.
Sing the bass.
Sing the bass. Sing the bass. Good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, and we want to welcome also Mheshimiwa Owen Baya. Thank you for joining us today. We really do appreciate. And of course, we are just looking at the dailies. This is the standard sale, as we were just taking that particular revelation, looking at it deeply. This is the pop opening to priests getting married. This is on the front page of the Standard today. Also inside the Financials Standard this morning, we have foreign brands sow as local rivals falter. That is another story that you want to follow inside the Standard this morning. Now, the budget and why Article 223 is a hot potato. Law was put in place to check executive excesses, but a look at how it has been used shows MPs have allowed illegalities, and this is, of course, looking at the recent revelations regarding how monies were really spent without passing through or getting approval of Parliament, and this is where they use the Article 223 to circumvent that, and the revelations are all spilled out. We have the explainer on page 6 of the Standard this morning. This is how it looks. Looking at the teaser on top, families flee bandit areas as LSK slams move. Also, fertilizer cost higher than promised is another story that you have it on page 20 of the Standard. Magical Kenya Open lives up to its billing, and that is on page 38. Let's see what we have on the Daily Nation. The deal that saved Matiang'i. And we have the flag reading trouble. Meeting sought to quell tension in Gusii land. And also revealed 4 days after a meeting between 3 MPs and President William Ruto brokered a ceasefire. The Director of Public Prosecutions yesterday declared the former Cabinet Secretary a free man, saying he had no case to answer. This story is on page 6 and 7 of the Daily Nation this morning. And now we have a new KPA boss who's pledging to put workers first, having been a port employee for more than 31 years. Mr. William Ruto says he understands the concerns of the more than 7,000 dock workers. You have the full story on page 12. Azimio senators plot to paralyze business. The leaders who have been boycotting plenary sittings for the last 3 weeks have maintained that they will continue disrupting house business, which resumes today. Also sitting on wealth, survey shows 970 minerals across the country. Kenya is literally sitting on immense underground wealth of some 970 minerals, which have been classified as potential prospects for further exploration, right? And this is just giving you an illustration of how it is. We have Colton in Kora Wells, Isiolo County. We have Kiritiri, Embu County, Homo Bay County, West Pokot, Telot, West Pokot County, Tinderet, Nandi County, Buru, Kericho County. You sitting under a gold mine, so to speak, that is Colton. We have graphite as well, Kiembere, Embu County, Duruma, Tana River County. We have Kanziku, Kitui County. And we have also iron, Ikutha, Kitui County, manganese, Kilifi County. Mr. Bayer, yeah, you have
lots of
yes, yeah, we have lots and lots of wealth underneath you, unbeknownst to many. That is manganese there. We have archers. We have that is archers or archers post, Samburu County. We have copper. We have Kitui County, Makindu, Makueni, Savo, Taita, Taveta. Right. So, Mr. Bakali, also you have copper.
A lot of minerals in our county.
In your county, and you're not digging to all this to change the prospects in the life of what this. You should be working in liaison with the Ministry of Minerals.
The CS was in Kitui. Was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? Discussing possibilities of getting that out of our soils, because we have a lot of minerals in Kitui.
You have a lot of minerals.
When I become the governor there.
You don't have to become the governor.
I can tell you it will be...
I've already started to campaign.
I was saying you don't have to wait to be the governor.
No,
you can begin now.
There's already a governor who is in charge. So when I take over from him, we'll continue.
But do you have to take over after this for you to mind?
Yes. There's a lot of discussion going on. I can tell you it will be very soon. We'll be at the top there. You know, God is very gracious. God is very gracious.
Acres of Diamond. If you remember that book, Acres of Diamond, how you're sitting under wealth.
Yes, under wealth.
Yeah. And this also is, I think, is a big key component when it comes to also revenue sharing.
Yeah, sure.
And I remember, was it Agnes Zani when we had titanium, right, in Kwale, and how that also was a big contention on how we can share those revenues. I think this is some of the legislations you need to be keeping in place or starting now to
it's already there.
in Parliament.
15% for county governments.
15%. But then how do you come to that particular aggregate figure of 15%? Yeah, given because you don't know right now, even if now you're talking about 15%, against what percentage are we also getting from this particular? Because I don't know if they've done a baseline survey to just get an indication on how much copper we're talking about. It could be a very minuscule percentage that you're talking about against what maybe they're extracting from that.
Whatever is exploited, the value of that, you will leave something for the
but 15% I find
and
to
then
be
the other one is the host community also get something.
Right. So
it's a very interesting bill. We did that in 11th Parliament in Nyaka, if I remember.
Yeah, it was 11th
Parliament.
But it was a very heated debate.
Very heated debate.
But
I remember the sanction of not more than, which we had to change to not less than.
Not less than.
Because some people may be they're prospecting, they've got the mine, but they actually are now taking it away without revealing the government. So we had to put a law that if you are found with that, you will be charged not less than. Somebody cleverly went in and said not more than, which could even be zero. But imagine a prospector having discovered continues to exploit without revealing. Because sometimes they just take the ore with it. They just take the soil and you think they take cutting away the soil, but they actually use things like manganese and titanium. That's a very common problem.
Well, do you think maybe from 11th Parliament until now there needs to be a review with the recent revelation? Because I think maybe then you're making that legislation just given that we discovered some oil in Turkana, but now you have a different altogether revelations of how these deposits are spread across the country in different counties.
Well, all laws need to be reviewed as you implement them, but I don't think we have gone over this again.
All right. Makali?
When that need comes, laws are there to be reviewed every time. It's a continuous process. After every 6 months, you can actually review a law. It depends on the local needs and then the problem analysis. If there is a problem, then you can review it too, so that you address the problem. So up to now, I think those who are able to benefit from that law have not expressed a need to review it. But if we get to that point, it will be done. But what I can tell you for sure, what is happening, the government is setting a lot of resources for exploration of minerals, so that you get to know where they are in this country, and that can give chance to those who are now to go to the next level of getting the minerals out of where they are. Then that will be good for the country, because we require all this revenue. Other than borrowing, we can get our own revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be good for the country.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed. I hope something will be done to actually doggedly follow up on this. This is a delineation that we're talking about, rich deposits of minerals that God has endowed in this country. And we are sitting on wealth here, if anything is to go by here. And you can read the rest of the story inside the Daily Nation today. Azimio senators, as I said, are plotting to paralyze business. That is in the Daily Nation. And we can move on and see what the Star has for us. How CS Matiang'i escaped DCI's news. Freeman Gusii leader engaged top state officials in back-to-back meetings in Loving. There was also fear of Kisii region rebelling against President William Ruto's regime. Is this what really has maybe changed or moved the needle to the other side, where now we have him as a free man? Also on top here, says Owalo woos 28 former Nyanza politicians into Ruto's UDA party. You can read the rest of the story on page 7. And controversy over Muranga's bank robbers. Were they executed? That is a probing question, and I know we have IPOA who are investigating this particular incident, but we can read the rest of the story inside the Star. And the People Daily also is talking about Matiang'i, how night talks saved Matiang'i. Off the hook, former powerful Interior CS will not be standing in the dock to face conspiracy charges after all, as leaders from Gusii, led by Education CS Machogu, intervened on his behalf ahead of President Ruto's tour of the region. And this is the story on page 4 of the People Daily. The Director of Public Prosecutions found the evidence provided was not sufficient to sustain the above charges against Dr. Fred Matiang'i and his advocate. This is from Lillian Obuo, acting deputy DPP. On top here is Muria Wori, and he's saying stop politicking, serve Kenyans. Former VP makes veiled criticism of the opposition, asks its leaders to work with government. He was holding court with the principal cabinet secretary, that is Musalia Mudavadi, when he made these pronouncements. Also, tea earnings hit up to 138 billion shillings. Improved prices and weakening shilling help farmers to grow income despite drop in production due to prolonged drought. And also, Ruto amsamehe Matiang'i. That is Taifa Leo. Waziri Machogu atajwa kuwa mpatanishi mkuu kati ya rais na waziri wa zamani. Mwafaka, utawala wa Ruto ulioahidi kuepuka kisasi dhidi ya mahasimu katika siku za hivi majuzi umekuwa ukishiria dalili za kumfungulia aliyekuwa waziri wa usalama msururu wa kesi, lakini ghafla ukapiga ubautani baada ya mashauriano na viongozi mbalimbali. Je, kunani? That is a question there. You have the story on page 2 of Taifa Leo, and you can read the rest of the details. Apeleke uasi pwani. Apeleke uasi pwani. That is kinara wa Azimio la Umoja One Kenya, Raila Odinga, akiandamana na speaker wa Kilifi, Teddy Mwambire. And of course, you can tell us, he's now in your fort there. This is Azimio. I don't know how has been the reception or how you're countermanding that. This is Owen Bayer, who is a member of parliament for Kilifi North.
Yes. Now, Honorable Raila was in Kilifi yesterday, and he probably stayed much closer to Mombasa than Kilifi. because he was in Mtwapa. And Mtwapa is at the border of Mombasa and Kilifi. I'm sure he found it very, very difficult to come into the interior of Kilifi. The governor of Kilifi himself was not available for him. So he brought, I think he had only three MPs from Kilifi out of the 7, and the Speaker of the county. The rest of the leadership was not there, and he capitalized on leadership that came from Mombasa, as you can see in the picture, and other regions of Kenya. But I can tell you for free that he has lost support in Kilifi, and he's just hanging on a few leaders who actually cannot be said to be progressive. So Kilifi is not Raila Odinga's forte anymore, and I think he must have discovered that yesterday, because they spend a lot of time and their money to bring followers and supporters from Mombasa instead of Kilifi. And I think as he comes back to Nairobi, he's thinking that, yes, I think he's lost the support that he used to have in Kilifi.
He has to do a bit of a reflection.
Yes.
But maybe Dr. Nyikal will tell you something that dramatically different. People, how they really came out in force also over the weekend in Mombasa. I don't know if you were there yourself.
I wasn't in Mombasa, but what I saw on the TV, there was a large crowd. You can't say, as my colleague is saying, when you see the crowd, whether they're from Kilifi or Mombasa, all you know is you have a crowd. So
it doesn't matter where they're coming from.
There's a crowd.
You see
there are people from around.
Excuse me.
But I was in Narok and Tulele and Wasungiro. And I think the crowd was quite. Actually, there's a huge surge. We had difficulty moving all the way from Wasungiro to Narok and then to Tulele. So I actually think there's a lot of people who have the same feeling that we have, that things are really not running as well as they should be. That's the point.
That's the point. Do you feel things have changed on the ground as far as the hustler narrative is concerned? People are beginning to poke holes and question the hustler
For whatever
narrative.
reasons, maybe the realities of running a nation, things have not worked out as it was expected with them. Even what is touted a lot on fertilizer subsidy, I'm just reading this bit here, that people in Trans Nzoia are complaining that they were told the price of 3,500. They are buying it at 4,000. What has happened with the CBC, it has not gone out well. They say it was started before, but the major change in CBC was actually shifting it from where we expected to be in secondary schools to primary schools. That's a major shift in policy. I think that hasn't worked well. The maize issue, for whatever reason, whether it is lacking in the whole world or not, people are not getting maize. The prices that you are saying has gone to 187. I actually checked yesterday. Prices are still hovering around 200. So people are hurting. The health sector has not changed much. Universal health coverage hasn't made a move. You can say 6 months is not much, but in the beginning is what you see, okay, we are moving in the right direction. I don't think people are seeing that. The appointment, to me, my colleague is here, it can't be so blatant that you actually just get people from 2 regions in everything that you do. Once you take leadership by whatever means you do, I think somebody who is sitting in the main seat, their biggest issue is to actually now get the country together. As all of us have been elected, the moment you have been elected, your first task is to find out, how do I get everybody to come together? Actually, get the other people and say, okay, we work together and so on. You may not deal with the actual politicians that were against you, but you can't say that a whole community, a whole area You're not going to pick people. You're going to just pick people that you think are loyal to. That is divisive. And unfortunately, many times, nature does also not favor it, because sometimes you find when you go with those blanket moves, you actually exclude people who are competent. And if you're also removing people, you lose the institutional memory.
We will get to that. We will get to that. We just need to continue just to finalize on pay-per-view. This is what Taifaleo is saying. We're looking at Raila's, of course, tour of Kilifi and how the reception was there. According to Mheshimiwa Baya, the reception was not really very welcoming. Most of the leaders didn't show up. But you judge for yourself there. You can read the rest of the details inside Taifaleo as well. Now, there is this bugbears and fear regarding the rates hike that is threatening our affairs here with the Nairobi Securities Exchange, which is pushing it to a 6-year low. America's rate hike threat pushes Nairobi Securities Exchange to 6-year low. Kenya stocks shed 135 billion shillings after US Fed signal. Foreigners sell shares despite dividend boom. We have this capital flight there, Dr. Nikal. And Isaac Omaura there. Things are not faring well, even as a Fed. You can see sort of also the banks, they're scared as well. We hope there won't be any bank run, and we fall back to a situation where we were in 2008 with, of course, what really happens with the financial markets then. Checks from rival banks to be cleared in a day. New development there. With the clearinghouse bank, customers who pay checks from rival lenders into their accounts will be able to get the money cleared within 1 working day in fresh efforts to boost cash flow in the economy. This story continues on page 2 of the Business Daily today. Also, all marketers to pay for fuel imports in Kenyan shilling as shortage looms. This is good news. When we know we have the dollar crunch as well. Local oil companies will pay for oil imported on credit through a government-to-government deal in Kenya shilling to ease pressure of the local currency that continues to hit new record lows every week. And how Carrefour rebates are squeezing suppliers. Majid Al Futtaim-backed retailer Carrefour has been putting a squeeze on suppliers through multi-layered rebates, with the fees now the subject of a fresh probe by the Competition Authority. You have the story continuing on page 6 of the Business Daily. And Kenyans invest 2,000 shillings apiece in cryptocurrency. That's the way to go. Kenyans produce a nation of hustlers in which people believe in miracles. By voting in Hustlernomics, this is just, of course, an opinion there. By voting in Hustlernomics, Kenyans produce a nation of hustlers in which people believe in miracles. You can read the rest of the details inside the Business Daily. In Tanzania, this is what is happening, where 3 trillion shillings additional budget funding will go. That is Tanzanian shillings. And donors pledge $8 billion as millions face looming hunger in Horn of Africa. Go beyond call of duty. Pango challenges DCs. That is the Citizen. We have mwananchi's with bajeti ya mishahara ajira mpya serikalini in Tanzania. And we want to buckle down now to a discussion a bit with what we have as the latest developments. And this is what has been drawn today by Ozone Inside the Star. The case files against Matiang'i, you know, the latest development so far in regard to this turn of events. The DCI, this is the DCI kitchen and the DPP. And you can see all manners of files, the way they've been flying every which way. The Matiang'i file, we have the Linturi file, we have the Regardis file, we have the Jumas file, we have plates which are breaking. Isaac Bora, what is really happening at the DPP's office and the DCI in regard also to the latest with Matiang'i's about turn? Why all these melodramatic events that we do have, then you come and tell us there's no substantive evidence?
I don't think there is any kitchen that has got books, not unless they are recipes. So therefore, I don't understand how
they are recipes in the first place. We should ask ourselves. Yeah.
Nowadays, we don't even use them; they are on phone. So I wonder what clocks are doing on the floor. But I think the cartoonist is just trying to be dramatic around the fact that he's trying to suggest that these things are cooked; they are not original. But I really cannot say that there is any iota of truth in this case, because the DCI cannot, the DPP cannot go to prosecute someone when there is insufficient evidence, the BAL. I mean, you don't want to have a case that will not hold water just because there is public pressure to that extent. I believe if Matiang'i is to be arraigned in court, there are more serious allegations like the extrajudicial killings that he himself could have sanctioned, and also the Roraka land issue. Those are watertight cases. But on this one of him trying to,
but careful when you say him himself could have sanctioned. This is a matter.
I said could have. I said could have. I did not say he did. Could have, because it's a subject of investigations. And the alleged Ruaraka land saga. I wrote a very interesting piece about him, the rise and fall of Fred Matiang'i in the Star over the weekend, where, of course, we see someone who initially was seen to be very professional, who can be credited with the digital migration, the yellow buses, the C+, admission to university, and such other things that he did when he was in various dockets. But then he was used as a pawn to advance some selfish, political games around the handshake government and the BBI. And even at some point, he was touted as a compromised presidential candidate. I remember going to a funeral in Muranga, and the chiefs there introducing themselves as Team Matiang'i. It was so funny that the chiefs could actually become that political to advance the agenda of the boss. But power is transient, as the president said. So Matiang'i now, who was telling people that there is an invention of the Kenyan judicial process where you get an anticipatory bail, he was the first to get it under this administration, of course helped by Dunstan Omari, in that regard. But I think those are just the charades of what we are seeing. I can see there is a lot of speculation about whether there is a deal that has been struck. I can see the Daily Nation has decided to sell its newspaper today using that headline. But that is more than meet the eye, and I don't think by any chance, if anybody is culpable, will be let scot-free.
But you can't let the fact that maybe there could be a deal, why there were negotiations.
Those are
it's all about.
Those were SDA elders meeting at a church congregation. We are reading too much, and you don't say because you are no longer in the same.
No.
I'm surprised.
Yeah. SDA elders.
No, you have to remember also the president has said that the church will be a big component of his government.
For sure.
So anything that happens within
SDA eldership and the church are two different things.
We take them seriously, because now even the church has become.
If that were to be the case, I heard that Mheshimiwa Makali Mulu is an elder of the AIC. Maybe he's also joining government.
Let's hear from Baya.
He's in government.
He's in government already. Baya, you've been following this as well.
Yes.
That constituent of Kisi, I think maybe they've seen, one of our own is being mistreated as well. So in these negotiations that were there, 17 hours we were given to understand, could that be also a factor that has made, the move or the needle to move a jot to the other side instead of where it was going? And then we had all this drama, then it is just hot air. Would you say this has been hot air all along?
I'll make 2 points. One, the world over, in other jurisdictions, including Kenya, the issue of where you have a case and government wants to negotiate on it and, make certain decisions has been there. In this country, I think it was during Amos Wako's time when we had this lot of nolle prosequi, where a case would go to court, and I remember he made that a slap on the wrist remark, that it is normal to do that. And you look at the facts that you have as a DPP and the DCI, and you look at them and say, yes, if we go to court on this, how will we sustain the charges? And it is also the reason why prosecutorial powers were removed from the DCI and taken to the DPP, so that there's check and balance. A lot of the time when DCI would take people to court, they would not sustain. You would stay in court for 10 years, and the DCI cannot move the case forward, and there's a lot of waste of time. But this constitution brought in
gave the powers to prosecute to the DPP, where now the DPP can look at it from an objective side. Second thing that you need to note on this case is that who was the person offended when these things happened? Actually, the DCI one was the investigator, but he was also the person who was offended, because they felt that Matiang'i had said, the police had gone to his home and all that. So they were investigating a case in which they were actually a partisan party. So DPP Nurdin Haji looks at it from an objective point of view and says that we don't think we can sustain this. That is the first point I make. The second point is, yes, there seems to have been a lot of political activities around this matter, but it is common in Kenyan politics. What was said, and I think I participated in some radio show, is that the Gusii community was up in arms saying, our son is being crucified. Yes. Our son is being crucified. The local politicians there, as politicians, would want to say, if our son is being crucified, what do we do? So they said, let's approach the president. And they went and approached the president and discussed. But in me thinks that there is no correlation between the happenings. That these guys went, approached the president, talked to the president, but Nurdin Haji was also allowed to do his job. But I do not see that that the president called Nurdin Haji. You remember in one of the interviews that the president said that during Kibaki's time, the line, I think it was former Chief Justice Mutugi, he said when he was president, when he was Chief Justice, President Kibaki never dialed his line. His direct line. His direct line. And this is what this president will also do, not call a judge or call the DPP to tell him that please drop this case. What are the other things is that people are just reading too much. There's a meeting happening here, and there is Dr. Matiang'i's case being. I think what we have done as government is to give DPP Nurdin Haji an opportunity to do his job. That when a case comes, a file comes to him, he looks at it objectively and makes a decision without having to wait for a phone call from the president. So these two, yes, politicians, even me, if Aisha Juma is arrested for any reason, I will make noise. I will but I do not think my noise will interfere with the work of the DPP. Yes. So right. I think that is what we, as a Kenya Kwanza government, that's what we believe, that the justice follow its course. Yes. All right, so let's hear from Dr. Makali. So looking at these intrigues, first of all, he says that meeting is purely coincidental. Do you find it also from your end that it is providential that you're having this meeting and this development, and also DPP saying, okay, surely work here, sloppy, no evidence that is substantive to continue with this particular case. So why are all this drama?
You know, Dibal, I don't envy the position of my colleagues. What else can they say? I just want to remind them that Kenyans are very intelligent. They can see through what all this. So Kenyans can see through the wall and know what is happening. What is happening is very simple. When you look at the drama, starting from the visit to Matiang'i's home by the police, that night of drama, then later experts, IT experts go and get computers out of his house. And at the end of the day, they say he has no case to answer. For me, I think the Kenya Kwanza government needs to change tactics in terms of the way we are doing things. It started immediately they took over. The same DPP, how many cases did he drop? I remember at one point, I don't know whether it is this station or another station, where I said, where I come from, and that is Ukambani, when you want to cut a big tree, you first clear the small ones around. So that when the big one is falling, the small ones will have given indication that this one is coming down. And that's what the DPP has been doing. He started dropping very small cases. Later, we go to the top and he has been dropping cases. To me, his dropping Matiang'i's case is not a coincidence. It's a very deliberate move. What has happened, the Gusii community has come together. They have said our son has been harassed. Our son is being taken through rough times, which is not used to. And even though he might have done some things which are not right, but he's our son. But at the same time, we are also voters. We have a voting block, which you can't ignore. So choose between our son and a voting block. And as a politician, and I'm one of them, nobody would ignore that voting block. I need to remind you, Dibal, if you look at what is that voting block, the immediate elections was a Azmir block. Just the immediate was the Azmir block. So this is a good opportunity now to soften the ground and start getting now that 40 block coming to the other side. Kenya Kwanza is seriously planning for 2027, we know it, but you just want to plead with them to use the law. Let the law take its course. Because you can't today tell me I'm wrong and tomorrow you are telling me go home. It's expected whether there is no evidence. But what a coincidence that it just happens after a day when we see Gusii leaders going to meet the president, and then the other side, DPP, is announcing that this guy, we have no evidence. I'm telling you, very soon, if he makes, you remember when he went for the burial of C.S. Magoa, there are some statements he made there which were very strong. That was the trigger of what was happening. Now he's been told, we are going to let you go, but you remain a private citizen, don't talk. If he goes to another burial and makes another statement, you will see him again.
This is muffling freedom of expression.
This is a bait. What has happened to him now is he has to keep quiet all through, because what they have done, they have just tossed a bait to him. You must keep quiet. So immediately we raise another voice, they will be pulling the bait. And he has to keep on remaining quiet. So for me, the way I look at it, let Matiang'i be taken through the process, due process. If he has any case, let it be taken to court so that the courts clear him. Although anyway, from where we sit as Azimio, we know the court is also another just show. Nothing serious will come from it. So they'd rather just let him free before he even goes the other side. But for me as a country, we are saying, let's do things in a civilized manner. Let's be a bit civil. The thing is, if Matiang'i has done any wrong, and I need to see Kenya get to a level where we are all equal before the law. So that even if it is me who is on the wrong and I've done something against the law, then let me be taken through the due process. And that's the way you grow a country. That's where you grow democracy. Not a situation where, depending on who is in power, you say let Nyakal go free, scot-free, and the person who has stolen my chicken at home is suffering in jail. You know, this is what we don't want to see. This is a serious country. I want to see justice being meted at equal level, so that when we have a problem, let's face the problem. But it's good they have let this gentleman off the hook. I hope you will remain silent. The agreement was, we'll let you off the hook, but remain silent. Remain a private citizen.
But how are you privy to that particular, or this is just police speculation?
We are politicians.
Okay,
We are politicians. There's something called signaling. We can see the signals before they come.
The signals, Well, we're eagerly waiting to see if he'll be mealy mouthed as well. Let's hear from
But before
Dr.
I go there, let me just comment on what, because I was in Mombasa.
You in Mombasa?
I was in Mombasa. Let me comment on what my leader here was saying.
Yes.
You know, Dibal, I think my leader, you are my friend.
Yes.
We are doing 2 terms with you now.
Yes.
The third one, you are not there when I was there.
Yes.
But just want to tell you this way. Because you are a good leader and you are a gentleman, don't bury your head in the sand. And the leaders, Kilifi leaders might not be there with Azimio,
Yes.
but the community, the people who matter, the hustlers, have shifted. You better get away with getting hustlers back to your side. They are not with you.
let me come.
The people's voice is the voice of God. All right.
You know me, these Matiang'i issues, it's a major principle that to me comes into question. The principle of how some offices can be protected from political influence. I mean, the Constitution 2010 tried and created the office of the DPP, the office of the DCI, and we have also the issue of office of the Director of Budget. Now, these offices were created so that they can be protected from the influence of politics. What is bothering me is that doesn't seem to be working, because there is clear evidence that politics is still influencing them. The case of Matiang'i, to me, is smaller than the case of Haji. because it is just one case amongst others where it's, oh, it is gone for Haji. We know that will go like this. Now, well, let's start with the Matiang'i one. The Matiang'i one, first of all, he got a lot of support from Kenya Kwanza side, in fact, support from Azmio side. Our Azmio leader went there, some people went there, there was support. And there was extreme harshness following that. His house was broken in and everything.
Yes.
Now things turn around. Now the Kisi leaders meet, and suddenly now that harshness has gone. It's actually now gone free. It tells that if he seemed to be getting support from Azmio, then he had to be dealt with. Something has to be done. Now, if now they are talking politically, I think now this is better off. All you can see there is the hand of politics. But why am I saying the bigger issue is the issue of Haji? You can't have one person telling you that at this time I was actually prosecuting these people, but I was forced to do that. Then the next minute you say, now I'm releasing them because I don't see anything. It doesn't just work, because we thought we would get people of integrity who would look at the law as their protector and not politics. So that, to me, that is what is worrying me. You see the director of budget saying that there was threatened that there was going to be a phone call. The phone call wasn't even made. That if you continue like this, a phone call will be made. Is that enough threat to make somebody spend so much money? So the question we are having, can we protect these offices enough and get people who can stand by it? I think what we need are people who can stand by the law and say, I'm protected. I used to lead a lot of literature. I didn't do literature as a subject, but I read a lot. They saying a man of all seasons, man for all seasons. And I think there was somebody, Thomas Moore, that he was actually going to be executed because he was opposing the marriage of Henry VIII to Anne Boleyn. And so people told him, but you are the custodian of the law. Why don't you change the law to save your neck? Then he told them, you know, the law is like a thicket when you're hunting. If you cut all the thicket when you're hunting, now when a wild animal comes and now you are running, where will you hide? So it is the law that can protect us. So if people like Haji cannot actually stand by be protected by the law and the constitution, and they are succumbing to politics and politicians, that is what should worry us. So what he has done to me, it is quite clear. Somebody, after the case is met, somebody called somebody who can give Haji direct instructions. We all know how that can be.
Okay.
And so that is how it went.
So
but the issue is...
We need to take a short break. Yeah, so there are normally two files. One, the files of the case, and the file for the phone call as well on the other side. As it is, what are you telling us? Yeah. We want to take a short break. When we circle back, of course, we continue with that and a raft of other issues as well. I'd raised the question of the EACC, the constitution of it. Many people are raising scruples, and they are asking that poignant question regarding how we can have a whole commission which is without lawyers.